Classify each data set as categorical or numerical. In our class, we rephrased these to use the technical terms, which would be qualitative or quantitative. And the way that we remember those is N for numbers and L for letters or labels. So the types of insect in a tree, you're going to describe the insect using a label, not a number. So this would be qualitative data. Go through and label each of the following to finish your warm-up. The first step is to come up with a question that we would want to answer. So we have a couple of sample questions here. Do students in our class prefer to eat apples or bananas? Do students in our class prefer to write with pencils or pens? Then we would collect data on these, and there could be multiple variables. The possible responses you might get would be apples, bananas, pencils, and pens. These are all qualitative data values. In the previous lessons, we looked at quantitative data, and we were able to analyze it on a scatter plot. But when we have these labels for our data, we have to examine the data in a different way. So you're going to answer each survey question on your own. Do you prefer apples or bananas? Do you prefer to write with a pen or a pencil? This is your choice. And then we are going to complete the table by using the class data. So we'll tally up how many people said apples and how many people said bananas, and then how many students are in our class total. In a class of 24, 15 of the students said that they prefer apples, and 9 of the students said that they preferred bananas. If you're doing this in person, you're going to collect the data based on the real values from your peers. Now that we have the data, we need to analyze it and look for an association. One way to do that is by creating a bar graph using the data. We will start by labeling our bar graph. There were 15 students who said they liked apples. So we're going to create our bar between 14 and 16. And there were 9 students who said that they liked bananas. Complete the table by calculating the relative frequency of the data in problem 2. Write each relative frequency as a decimal rounded to the nearest thousandth. So relative frequencies, take those amounts and compare them to the total. So 9 divided by 24 will tell us the decimal for the bananas, and 15 divided by 24 will tell us the decimal for the apples. Remember, it says round to the nearest thousandth if needed. So if you had a different amount of students, you may have to round your decimal. Explain what the relative frequencies from Problem 4, mean in context. 62.5% of the students in the class prefer apples. And 37.5% prefer bananas. We can place the relative frequency data in a bar chart as well, or a bar graph as well. So we'll do that here. For the relative frequencies, we'll count by tenths. We're going to go up to 0.625 and then up to 0.375. So just underneath 4. Use your work from problems 2 through 6 to answer the statistical question. Do students in our class prefer to eat apples or bananas? Since the apples have a higher frequency and a higher percentage, we will say that students prefer to eat apples. If the data from your class is different, make sure that you use your results. Answer each survey question. In the previous problems, we examined one variable, the preferred fruit. Now we're going to look at if there's an association between a student's preferred fruit and their preferred writing utensil, which means we're going to look at two variables at once. We're comparing the preferred fruit to the preferred writing utensil. This is called bivariate data because we're looking at two variables. But again, because it's qualitative data, we can't use a scatter plot, so we're going to use what's called a two-way table. So we're going to record how many people said they liked apples and pencils and put them here. How many people preferred apples and pens. How many people preferred bananas and pencils. And how many people preferred bananas and pens. Here are the results from our class. Recall that we had 15 apples. So that's 5, 10, 15 people who liked apples. And then we had 9 people who liked bananas. So 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That should still show up in the table. 15 and 9. But now it's broken down into how many of those people who liked apples preferred pencils and how many preferred pens. So they're kind of separated out here a little bit. This is just the start of a two-way table. Typically, we'll also include a row for the totals. So we had 5 and 10 and a total of 15 people who liked apples. We had 1 and 8 and a total of 9 people who liked bananas. If we look at the pencils, there's 5 and 1 make a total of 6 people who liked pencils. And pens, we have 10 and 8 for a total of 18 people who like pens. 15 plus 9 is 24. And 6 plus 18 is also 24. This is a two-way table. We have the preferred writing utensil as one variable and the preferred fruit as another, giving us bivariate data. Answer each question by using the frequencies from problem 9. How many students in your class preferred pens? There were 18 students at the total of the pens column. How many students in your class prefer banana and pens? So we have to look at the bananas row and the pens column, and there were 8 students who liked bananas and pens. Complete the table by calculating the relative frequencies of the data in problem 9. Write each relative frequency as a decimal rounded to the nearest thousandth if needed. To change it from a two-way table to a relative frequency two-way table, we're going to divide by the total. And then we're changing them to decimals rounded to the thousandths place. Well, 24 divided by 24 is 1, so you can start with that one. Answer each question by using the frequencies from problem 11. What percent of students in your class prefer pencils? So pencils was 0.25, which would mean that 25% preferred pencils. What percent of students in your class prefer apples and pencils? If we look at apples and pencils, we have 0.208, which would be 20.8%. What does the relative frequency from the shaded cell mean in context? That shaded cell is the people who prefer pencils and bananas. So about 4.2% prefer pencils and bananas. Pencils and bananas. In question 14, it says Nora surveyed the students in her class about their preferred fruit and preferred writing utensil. Complete the two-way table by using the given information. So here I see 13 and the total is 20. So this missing piece, 13 plus 7 equals 20. Then I can go this way, the markers. There were 4 that liked oranges and 7 that liked pears. That's 11 people total. Now that I have these two, I can combine them to find the total, which would be 30. I have the total and one of the parts, so the other part must be 10. I have the total and one of the parts, so the other part must be 6, because 4 plus 6 makes 10. We can check. 6 plus 13 equals 19. So it says how many students did Nora survey? That's the total. So there are 30 students surveyed. How many of the students Nora surveyed preferred oranges? The total that preferred oranges was 10. How many of the students Nora surveyed preferred markers and pears? So we're looking for markers and pears. That would be 7. This one says, what percent of the students Nora surveyed preferred markers and pairs? Well, there were 7 that preferred markers and pairs out of the 30, which we could do as a decimal, and that would be 0.23 repeating, or as a percent, it would be 23.3%, or 23.33%. That is the end of lesson 18. Check back for lesson 19 in the playlist.